Hi, welcome. Every teacher has a good lesson plan. In fact, every day as you go into the classroom, you have materials with you that you have prepared for the lesson of the day. But the question is, do you make out time to think about those challenges that you might face in the classroom in the course of delivering your lesson plan? For today's video, I'd like us to look at those minor problems that a teacher might face in the classroom while delivering his or her lesson. The very first problem is ignoring struggling learners in the course of preparing these lesson materials. Like at home, when you were preparing these lesson materials, did you have in mind those students that might not be very good in the language, in this case English, or those students that might not be very good in the topic that we intend to teach? They are known as struggling learners. And struggling here, we mean students that need extra help. They need a lot of adult help, both in school or at home. Therefore, when you plan out this lesson, did you make out time to think of these students? If you do, then it helps because by the time you get into the classroom, you wouldn't have a fraction of a class that pays attention to what you're teaching and a fraction of the class that is distracted and trying to disrupt your classroom. Therefore, if you actually pay attention to this problem, when you go in there, you're well prepared. You even have backup materials that you might give to those struggling learners that might not follow up on what you're doing. The second problem here is feedback. How do you carry out feedback in your classroom? Is it by correcting the books, marking the scripts or papers? Is that just so? When I talk of feedback, I'm looking at effective strategies here. Like you have to create out time to meet the students, talk to them one on one. When you talk to them face to face, it builds trust. The student appreciate the fact. The student tend to believe that the teacher cares about him or her. Therefore, they are able to open up and talk to you with ease. You get to know why they might not understand what you teach in class. And by so doing, you understand the student and you know how to approach him or her. The third problem that I'd like us to look at is social differences. You know, a classroom is made up of group of students, kids that come from different homes, and even you, the teacher, you come from another home. So here we have a lot of social backgrounds, a lot of differences in the classroom. You have to understand those differences in order to effectively manage your learning environment and make sure your kids are engaged. And when I talk of social differences here, I'm not looking at the monetary aspect of it. No, it's not a monetary aspect. I'm looking at the roles parents play in their child's education. The truth is, those homes that have parents who are very much involved in their child's education tend to help the children a lot, and these kids actually grow up with good morals, good behavior, and they are well focused in academics. But those homes that the parents don't pay too much attention on their child's education, like they are busy, they are committed with other things, these children tend to lack a lot. They are lacking morally. There might be those that are less encouraged to learn, they are rebellious. So in this case, these students will fall in a special group, those that are struggling or those that need special attention. So if you tend to understand these differences, then when you plan your lesson in mind, you actually know that in your classroom you have this group of students. You should prepare materials for them based on their level instead of just having one general material that you think will work for everyone. No, it doesn't. And like I said, experience helps you to understand this over time. The truth is, new teachers in the field, you might not even realize these problems. Sometimes you get into the classroom, you're quite angry that a child is noisy, a child is disruptive, but you fail to understand where this child is coming from, his or her upbringing, his or her background. If you understand this, believe me, teaching profession will be much, much more enjoyable and you wouldn't have problems doing this. The fourth aspect, which is the final aspect, is the overall objective of the lesson plan that you're doing. When you do lesson planning, like you have two objectives here. You have the general objective and specific objectives. General objective is to meet the overall requirement or expectation of the lesson that you intend to teach. Specific objective here will be those special subject matter or themes that you like your students to understand in the lesson. For example, let's say you want to teach a dialogue on eating at a restaurant. The general objective here will be to have your learners to understand languages that are used in the restaurant. But specific objective here might be one. You want your learner to understand different names of food vocabulary, different names of drinks. You want your learners to also understand the vocabularies related to people working in a restaurant. So when you have this in your mind, do you just go there and make sure you rush over the general objective, or you pay attention to specific objective? The truth is, you shouldn't pay much attention on general objective because it's just like a guide. It's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what I would say. Yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Look at specific objective. When you dive into that, you make sure your students get to understand those specific objectives. They are the core content of the topic. Like I mentioned, if it's dealing with restaurant conversation, instead of having your kids memorize some conversation in the restaurant, have them understand food vocabularies, drink vocabularies, have them understand bills or how to ask for bills. Help them to understand the vocabularies related to those working in the restaurant, like chef, you know. When you get them to understand this specific objective, and if they understand, they are able to know these things, then you say your topic was successful. At least it was 70% successful as compared to the general overview that you might want to introduce to them based on your general objective. So therefore, pay attention to specific objective. Once again, like I said, lesson plans are very good. They are like your guide. Think of lesson plan like a compass. Explorers use compass to move around. So your lesson plan is like your compass in the classroom. But then, if you can't identify the problems that might affect these lessons, if you can't identify what might go wrong, then believe me, at the end of the day, you wouldn't be able to deliver effective lesson to your students. So please, when next you are planning a lesson, bear in mind struggling learners. I repeat, bear in mind struggling learners, those that are not very good either in the language, which is English, or those that don't actually understand what you're teaching. When you have them in mind, obviously you will have a plan for them. Two, try to give effective feedback to your student. Effective feedback here means try to create time to talk to your students. Get to meet them, talk to them one on one. This will help a lot. And three, understand where they are from, their social differences, understand the nature of their home. And the only way to do this is for you to try and get close to the parents. Believe me, when you work hand in hand with parents, it helps the child a lot. Your relationship between you, parents, and school and students should be like that of a triangle. You have student, teacher, parent. So when you work together, you work harmoniously. Everything turns out well, which is quite good. So try to understand their background and where they are from. And the last thing, in as much as you have objective in your lesson, try to have those targets, specific things in the lesson that you want your students to understand. When you are able to deal with this, then teaching and delivering your lesson materials will be much more easier. I hope you understand this content and I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and please, no free things. I mean, help me here by subscribing. Ciao.